Okay, still with Al-Akhbar. Sudanese President Omar Hassan al-Bashir vows to support the South in case of separation. Al-Bashir pledged on Tuesday to help build a secure, stable and brotherly state in the South. Speaking before thousands of supporters in Gezira state, al-Bashir said that he would be the first to recognize the South if it chooses secession in a free and fair vote on the 9th of January. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's just exactly what we were mentioning when we talked about what's happening now in Sudan. That I think speaking in the fact that he did it in front of thousands of people, that actually shows definitely commitment, because there were worries in the beginning that, if the South does secede, that the North would then, kind of, change the policies or the agreements they decide upon, that we will be separate states.
Yes.
But the fact that even if we are separate, we'll still maintain brotherly agreement, I think that's actually a very good, hopeful sign.
Hopefully. Okay. And still with Al-Akhbar's front page, ECOWAS delegation arrives at Ivory Coast to persuade former President Laurent Gbagbo to stand out. After holding talks with Gbagbo at the presidential palace, the presidents of Benin, Cape Verde and Sierra Leone warned him that the African troops would be sent to force him to step down. Now, what has been going on in Ivory Coast is very interesting. So, and two men declaring themselves as presidents, and each one of them actually appointing the other as his prime minister. That was funny, but
I don't think that's happened before.
I never seen that before. But the ugly part of it is that the citizens, the people of Ivory Coast, are the one who are paying the price. So how do you see that? It's
definitely, whenever there's political turmoil, especially on this kind of scale, not just minister or vice, but president-wise. Hopefully it won't turn violent, or it won't turn into something that will actually tangibly really harm the country in a way that can't be changed. And hopefully it'll come to resolution soon, because it's kind of unprecedented and it doesn't seem like it will be resolved anytime soon. I haven't seen either of the candidates or either of the self-appointed presidents willing to change or take a stance, even whoever appointed the other as minister. That's kind of,
But the thing is, Gbagbo, Gbagbo has been maintaining his grip by paying money to the military.
Yeah.
But now, or sometime, the money will run out and he won't have any money. So do you think at this point
something will change?
Something will change?
Money always speaks. We'll see when money runs out.
And do you think that sending peacekeeping troops to Ivory Coast would actually solve the problem, or the problem would remain?
It'll help kind of, calm it down a little, and, bring back a kind of relevancy and a kind of let's think this through and what should we really do, rather than things just firing up and getting tensions rising. So it's always good. Peacekeepers are always good. So.
Okay, now let's turn to the weather. The cold wave peak reaches today, Wednesday, and tomorrow, Thursday. Thunder rains are expected in Sinai, the Red Sea, and the South. Actually, it was raining
this morning. Kind of little, very drizzling, but I was like, yes, rain.
Yes, rain. Finally, it's the winter here. But the thing is, I've also heard that. And it's there in Al-Akhbar. The governorate, especially Sinai, took the necessary measures because they were expecting rain, and they didn't want what happened last year to happen again.
And I'm sure also a lesson from what happened when it rained just a week ago in Alexandria, that the fact that because we're so not expecting rain, we don't take the necessary measures. And then you have suddenly, in Alexandria, I saw videos of, buses that were completely flooded.
Yes.
So yeah, it was 30 degrees Celsius yesterday. So it's good to see a little winter before, since we're in December.
They say that the instability in the weather started yesterday and would continue for the upcoming 48 hours. So the gradual improvement in weather would actually start tomorrow. And the meteorologist said that this instability is because the country is going through a certain trend that is coming to us from the Mediterranean and will continue until the south of the country. So this is good that we are finally having some rain and that we are ready for the rain, that we are ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's move on to المصري اليوم newspaper, and if we read المصري اليوم, let's see some sports news. Thursday's derby against Zamalek with that is going to be Al-Ahli. Al-Ahli is going to play on Thursday derby against Zamalek, and they said that they're going to use the 3-5-2 method
to win.
To win. And Zamalek hides their playing plan. Now Al-Ahli came through and they declared their plan, but the Zamalek decided to be discreet about it. Cairo Red Devils, Al-Ahli, and White Knights, Zamalek, and their preparation ahead of tomorrow's game. How do you see?
Well, I'm not the biggest football fan, but as far as I see, it's interesting that Zamalek didn't actually say their plan, because they did last time. But yeah, I'm not the biggest football fan, so unfortunately that's as far as I know about football. But what I can actually say, in Masri Al-Yawm, what's interesting is I think today they were the only paper to have a very small mention about what's happening, in Tunis, because there's strikes that have been going on for a couple of days over unemployment. You have thousands of students who are actually going to the streets protesting.
That was in Masri Al-Yawm.
Yeah, in the very back, it's a very small mention about how I think unemployment there is 14%. And 14% is the official, 28% is the unofficial. And very few media outlets are actually covering this fact and a lot of the more coverage, how I've read about it, is actually through social media. A lot of all students, because it's students, they're posting, on Twitter, on Facebook, they're posting their statuses. So it's very interesting that no one's actually covering this because thousands of people are protesting. So that's also to see how like we were just saying here, how students in Alexandria to protest against the learning, how citizens are actually going to the streets and demanding. But unfortunately theirs started, I think, by a student who actually tried to commit suicide because he couldn't find jobs after graduating from university except selling fruits and vegetables in the streets. So hopefully we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, if we move on to Al Jumhuriyah, we have an interesting little heading here that says that President Mubarak is going to Aswan within hours. He's going to visit Aswan to implement his electoral program, and he's expected to inaugurate a number of, there it is.
Yeah, very small.
Yeah, very small. He is expected to inaugurate a number of service and developmental projects in the governorate, and he's also going to give lands and houses to Nubians. This is, I guess, is a very interesting headline, and developing Aswan was on the president's electoral agenda. So there we go. It's today.
That's good.
So how do you read it?
It's that they put it on the front page, even though if it's very small, but it shows also the importance of developing, that we're actually going outside, not just Luxor, but Upper Egypt, all the developments that are taking place, because in the last couple of years, they're also very interesting and very much needed. I visited there a couple of times, there's a lot of infrastructure that's needed. And I think actually in the National Democratic Party, they were mentioned, economic reforms, and the idea that we're trying to get the private sector to actually start investing in public infrastructure. And that also this week, I think there was, exactly, that Egypt launched, I think this was at Akhbar, they talked about Egypt launching an initiative to increase the roles played by the Arabic private sector, to get the private sector to try to invest in public infrastructure, since they're obviously much more capable of funding. I think there was a statistic here that said up to 3 times what government funding. So hopefully that'll be able to translate into places where they actually do need a lot of help, such as Aswan and Upper Egypt.
Okay, well, Ethar El-Katatney, journalist, thank you very much for this press review. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
And stay tuned to us, because now we're going to take you to the New Valley, which is one of the Egyptian governorates located in southwest of the country between the Nile River, Sudan and Libya, with its capital Al-Kharga Oasis, and it is considered the largest governorate in Egypt. Karim Gamal-Eddin has more details to tell us about this beautiful place.